Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige and today we're getting a little bit negative. So tropes can be a wonderful thing. You can find books that you really love based on tropes that you know you like. It's how we can give recommendations, it's how we know that because we like something else, we might like something else. Tropes are fantastic and they can be really comforting to read. I know that if I'm looking for a comfort read, I'll look at tropes first. However, there are plenty nowadays that are overdone, incredibly outdated, and just really irritating to read about. So today I'm gonna do a little bit of a rant about some tropes that just shouldn't exist anymore. Let's please be a little bit more diverse. If you like any of these tropes, please don't be offended. They're just things that annoy me when I read. We can have a conversation about them if you feel really strongly about why I should forgive these tropes. However, I don't think you're gonna convince me. In fact, I think you might agree with me on some of these. The first trope that I hate, that I've spoken about before on this channel, love triangles. One, they're not love triangles, they're love arrows, because for it to be a triangle, the two people at the bottom would have to feel things for each other, and they never do. Two, there are plenty of other obstacles for couples to face without the main character suddenly falling in love with everyone, okay? In a real relationship where you truly love someone, you are not falling in love with every guy that comes into your life. You're just not doing that. It drives me insane. Like, I understand having doubts. Having doubts in a relationship, especially in a lot of the situations that these couples exist in books, is perfectly fine. But I just wish that authors could show that couples have doubts without introducing another guy. It drives me mad. Also, another thing that drives me mad about love triangles, authors try so hard to make the two, like, it's usually male characters, let's be real, to make the two male characters hate each other, but they just end up having sexual tension, and I root for the guys to get together. So, conclusion, if you're gonna write a love triangle, make it poly, because I really cannot do any of this like Twilight bullshit anymore. But also, on the note of Twilight, the love triangle is not that pronounced in the books. The movies really overdid it on the love triangle thing. But I reread the books recently and I feel like there's not that big of a love triangle in Twilight. Bella is very much always about Edward. So if you're gonna write a love triangle, or if you're gonna suggest a book that has a love triangle in it to me, please make sure it's not a Court of Thorns and Roses kind of situation where she's fully in love with one guy but then a new guy comes along and oh my god, what happens now? You know? Following on from that, why in books, especially YA fantasy, does every single character have to fall in love with the main character? And I think we all know who I'm talking about here. Yeah, we all know who I'm talking about? Yeah. It's just not real life to have every character fall in love with one person. Can we not just have platonic relationships? Can we please just normalise platonic relationships in books? Sure, I might really like a character and he might have a really good dynamic with the main character, but that doesn't mean I want them to fall in love. It is annoying and boring to read a book and it becomes predictable if every character you're introducing becomes a kind of love interest. Cassandra Clare books, some of my favourite fantasy books, have an issue for doing this too. I mean, it's the same in Twilight, and obviously Throne of Glass is bad for this. It's not realistic, and it definitely, reading these books as an early teenager, definitely affected how I viewed friendships and relationships and being friends with the opposite sex. I think it also really affected my confidence too when I view myself as the main character in my life, as we all do, and then not everyone was falling in love with me. You know, it wouldn't be a bad thing, especially to younger readers, to have some characters that, you know, maybe like someone and that person doesn't like them back, or they don't have a happy ending in a particular relationship, but that leads them to have a happy ending somewhere else in their life, you know. Let's just normalise normal relationships, please. This one might be a little bit controversial. Orphaned protagonists. Just because you don't want to write family elements throughout the series doesn't mean you just kill them off. Especially because in a lot of books, this loss is just then dealt with really superficially, and it's just like, oh yeah, like, my parents are dead, I'm really sad about it, you know, I have some issues because of it, blah blah blah, but not really explored or delved into. It's just kind of there because you can tell the author didn't know how to work the family element into their plot, or just didn't think it was important enough to. I think you can still have a lot of character growth, development and conflict by having the parents in the book. You don't have to kill them off for the plot to develop in the way you want it to, or for the protagonist to have problems. I think, on a similar note, another thing that really annoys me in books is when the parents are there but they're incredibly one-dimensional. Parents are human too. Parents do not just do things because they hate their children. Well, most parents don't just do things because they want to be mean or horrible. So if you're going to write conflict between a protagonist and a parent, please don't make the parent just bad and out to get the character for no particular reason, because they will have their reasons. It will be more complicated for the main character other than just, oh, my parent did this, I hate them and they're horrible. Relationships aren't that black and white. There's a lot more to it than that. So can we please explore that in books a bit more, that you can hate your parents but also kind of be hurt by it and love them and just be very confused. I think relationships between children and parents is one of the most complex that exists. So I'd like to see that explored a little bit more, rather than just, mostly in fantasy books, the parents being killed off and then you have like a mentor type figure. I don't hate the mentor figure trope, by the way, I actually really enjoy that, but I wish that parents existed. These two series are incredibly bad for this one. That's overpowered characters. And no hate to these books, I actually really enjoy them, especially Shadow and Bone. This is such a comforting read. It's got a lot of traditional fantasy tropes and elements to it, but the main characters are just really overpowered. Like, why is it that in a lot of fantasy books the protagonist is like the shining star that they haven't had in a millennia? They're the most powerful person that's existed in hundreds of years or ever, or they have this super rare power, or they just are good at everything somehow. You know, I love a magic school kind of element, or just like a magic teaching element in books, so it would be helpful if our character wasn't just amazing at everything. Why do, like, seriously, why? Like, why would you just have a character that's good at everything? And I understand from a fantasy perspective that it would be kind of boring to read about a character who's just normal. But also, the How to Train Your Dragon book series is about a dragon who's actually useless, and then if you've only seen the movies, then you'll think of Toothless as some big dragon. In the books, he's actually toothless and a terrible dragon. And that's interesting to read about. So we don't always need to have these super overpowered characters who just kind of get it and are super special straight off the bat. You know, it would be nice to read about someone who's maybe struggling with being normal. Or maybe I could get on board with them being a little bit overpowered if they struggled with their powers a little bit more and didn't just, you know. So in Magician's Guild, I think also a little bit in Shadow and Bone, but definitely in Magician's Guild, they use their powers at first by accident perfectly, and that's how they get discovered and get roped into everything. Can we please find another way of a person discovering their powers than just them being able to use it in like a time of crisis and then never again? I'm just bored of it. Please, let's just have normal characters, please. Just please. Scooting back to the whole relationship one now. Why do we have to have the two main characters fall for each other? Why can't we have a platonic relationship just once? I want to see a beautiful, normal friendship between two main characters. I don't want them to fall in love. Maybe we could even have a book where they find other people and then they have to, you know, talk to each other about how to deal with these situations, and they go to each other for advice, and they have a normal friendship, and it's not a friendship where one person finds someone and then the other person gets jealous. Even if they're just getting jealous because they're losing their friend. No, that's not normal in a friendship. It's not. Can we please just have some normal platonic relationships that are like at the centre of the book? I like reading romance, I really do, but I want to see more friendship elements in fantasy and romance. And not friendships that then turn into romances. I just want normal friendships. This one is really a given, and books are getting much better at it, so I'm not going to dwell on this one long. But stop with the token diversity, okay? If you're going to introduce some more diverse characters in your book, make sure that they're not just there to exist in relation to your protagonist, or that their problems with their identity or their race or their mental health is not just there to be causing problems for the protagonist or, you know, dealt with in relation to them, basically. Let's just have diverse characters who exist in their own right and have their issues in their own right. Just gonna leave that one there because things are getting much better around this area, but definitely still exists. Okay, the final trope that drives me mad, and a lot of fantasy books have started doing this recently, and I don't know why, because it drives me up the wall, and it's one that I don't know happens until the end, because it's a trope, it's an ending trope. Okay, why kill off your characters at the end or have them lose their powers at the end of the book? It drives me mad. Why have I just spent usually 3 books learning about this world, reading about these characters, being on the journey with the character to develop their characters and their life, etc., etc., and then they just die. I can give you plenty of examples where this happens, but I'm not going to because obviously that would spoil an ending. But my god, I really wish I could rant about books with this trope. In fact, if you guys want to see a spoiler video about books that have this ending trope, please let me know because I could rant about it for days. Just why? Why are you making me read this? Why can't you come up with an ending that's satisfying without them dying or becoming normal? Okay guys, so those are book tropes that I absolutely hate and think should be thrown off a cliff and stomped on and then buried and stabbed and everything under the sun. They need to go away. If you do like some of these tropes and want to see a specific like trope recommendations video, do please let me know because unfortunately, even though I don't like these tropes, I end up reading a lot of them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already and you want more bookish content. I upload twice a week on Wednesday and Friday, so there's no shortage of bookish content here. Also, do let me know how you feel about some of these tropes. Again, if you want the video, if you don't, if you just hate these tropes too, do let me know. I'd love to have a conversation about it. I'd love to know that my ranting is it's not just me being weird. And I will see you on Wednesday for my next video. Bye.